Welcome back, everybody. I'm Chris Temple of the National Investor, also Strategic Media, and more important for present purposes, I'll be the MC of the great Mining and Energy Expo coming up the 1st through the 3rd of October in the Twin Cities, put on by my friends and colleagues at Better in Our Backyard. We're going to have a big lineup there, state elected officials, federal elected officials, regulators, lots of companies, all of whom meet the themes of Made in America as we try and resource industries to the U.S., get back greater control over critical minerals and things like that. And there aren't very many companies that better represent what we need to do as a country than Guardian Metal Resources. And you're going to meet their executive chairman right here, JT Starzecki. JT, thanks for coming on with me.
Well, it's great to see you again, Chris. And yeah, I'm very happy to have this conversation.
Well, for those of you who are looking at this mostly as investors, you'll see here on the screen that the symbol in the US on the OTCQB is GMTLF. If you want to look up the company, we'll have their website and some other important stuff in the notes to this quick little video interview as well. But JT, you guys, pretty early on as a company, you saw a gaping hole when it comes specifically to tungsten. So give us a little bit real quick of the whys and wherefores of you guys looking chiefly as a first matter at tungsten.
Yeah, I love telling the story. So if you go back about 4 years ago, we were essentially a company that was formed out of a project incubator concept over in the UK. So there was an organization that essentially went around and would buy up assets, dormant assets, and would essentially package them together and sort of then build a company and a value proposition. And so about 4 years ago, our now CEO and has been since inception, Oliver Friesen, took a look at what the group of assets that have been pulled together under, at that time, Golden Metal Resources, and we've since renamed ourselves Guardian Metal Resources, looked at a couple of different things, right? So some precious metals, lithium was hot back then, but he really took note of some tungsten assets and opportunities, and then sort of went to the board. So we sat down, we had some strategic conversations, and we said, look, tungsten's already a critical mineral, right? It's underserved. There's no current U.S. production. We have a great asset in Pilot Mountain. And then we sort of embarked upon the journey, and we've been, we were the adopter of the tungsten concept back 4 years ago, and we've just continued to build on that. And so we took that asset, which was a historically mined for the war efforts asset back in 1940, and we started to sniff around a little bit and poke a few holes here and there. And then, it became such an interesting opportunity that we said, hey, strategically, tungsten is where we're going to be. And this is before it was in vogue, right? And I kind of use the analogy, if you were into rare earths 5 or 6 years ago and you got on the antimony bandwagon 3 years ago, tungsten is really that next chapter. And so what we did then about a year and a half, 2 years ago is we said, okay, we've got to get defensive and we've got to look to see if there's other assets out there that we need to own. So we canvassed the entire United States, and we did find another asset in the same Walker Lane belt that our Pilot Mountain project is in. And we identified a project called Tempaiute, which used to be called Emerson, and it was owned by Union Carbide. And it had a lot of the same geophysical and geotechnical characteristics that Pilot Mountain has, but it also had some existing infrastructure that Union Carbide left in place. And so we got a hold of the owner. We had some discussions. We made him a partner in how we, wanted to explore the asset. And, at the end of, or sorry, the beginning of this year, we closed a deal for us to have, you know, all of that asset as part of our portfolio. In fact, we're now post our DoD funding and fundraise, we're going to be starting a drilling campaign on Tempaiute. So tungsten in America runs through Guardian Metals, and we're extremely excited to talk to the masses about what we've been doing this last year.
Well, and I love the story from the first time I heard it. You and I finally got to meet in person early this year down in Miami at a conference, and you really schooled me on the whole story there. You're turning this into two different things now, or two enhanced things, at which people will learn more about when they come to the conference. First of all, as you alluded to, with this other project, Tempaiute, and other things you're looking at, Pilot North now, you've really got a regional or a district play, number one. Number two, it's not just tungsten you're likely sitting on as far as some economically viable assets, but you've got other base metals. It's just really exciting stuff. But I want to focus in just for a couple of minutes here. You alluded to this back at the end of July, and we all knew this was likely coming. The announcement came out. You got a $6+ million grant from the Defense Production Act, from the Department of Defense, to help with your permitting and things like this going forward. On a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, do you really think it's closer to 10 with the U.S. government right now, is understanding that they really need to get money and energy behind these kind of things? I mean, I'm glad to
Yeah,
see you got it, but I'm starting to see more of this.
yeah, and I would say that for the first time in almost 20 years of being in the junior mining and exploration space, I've seen a government back up a strategic agenda item. And the current administration, we saw it with that massive MP materials deal. There's been some other deals that were announced right about the same time ours was. So the broader message that we're starting to talk to the stakeholder community about is given both of our assets, tungsten is very different from other, strategic critical metals in the US in that the US already has the production capabilities to refine those materials into the end product. The issues with rare earths is you had MP materials, but you had no processing. So they were dug here, went to China, and then sold back. With tungsten, you've got the likes of Global Tungsten and Powders, who we have a commercial relationship with. You've got Buffalo Tungsten, you've got Kennametals actually in Nevada. So the downstream processing exists. So the government essentially funded our PFS process for Pilot Mountain, and really put a stamp of approval on we need tungsten. Guardian Metals is by far the most advanced. It gives us the quickest opportunity, frankly, to be more self-sufficient in tungsten. And we truly at Guardian are a made in America story. We're going to mine it here. It's going to be processed here. And we have the ability with both of those projects to completely replace all the imports for the US from China. So the US imports about 4,000 tons from China annually, up to the point where they can't, we can't now import it. But once we're in full production, we're going to replace that. So we're going to completely remove China out of the supply chain, or remove that supply chain risk. So this mineral, but also these assets have significant strategic value.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is a national security imperative. It's an economic one. It's an investment and related
Absolutely.
one. It's all of the above.
Yep.
Really, really good stuff. And it's especially interesting for us to learn. And when you think about this, JT, it makes sense. We have mothballed so many things in this country after World War II, when we used
Yep.
to produce all these base metals, our own uranium, our own base metals, our own iron, our own silver, a lot of these things, and decided that along with sneakers and doodads and toys that are made overseas, we're going to outsource all of these things too. Now we're in the full tilt boogie agenda to try and get those things back, and I'm glad you're part of it. I'm glad you're going to be on the agenda. As you see here, folks, JT is going to be on one of the panels. In the Twin Cities, the 1st to the 3rd of October. If you're not already registered, make sure you register. Get to the conference. This is going to be an extremely important and pivotal one. We're going to look back years from now at how important this is right now, these types of get togethers, as we start to repurpose our country to be more self sufficient. Real quick before I let you go, JT, as far as Better in Our Backyard is concerned, at first, my thanks that you're one of many supporters, a growing legion of them that is getting behind us. What's been your first impressions of Better in Our Backyard?
Well, I started following the organization quite some time ago. And, I'm being a Minnesota guy, right? I was really interested that the founder, Ryan, was out of Duluth, and he was really focused on, because here in Minnesota, we have such a rich iron ore or taconite
Right.
history. And there's just so many opportunities, the old Polymet, now NorthMet project. We've been hearing about the copper nickel potential. I'm not kidding, for 15 years. And so when I started to see an organization that was trying to champion stuff here in Minnesota, I took note. I happened to run in a couple of years ago to Ryan at a conference. We sat, we had a conversation, instantly hit it off. And I just, I said to him, I love what you guys are doing. How can I help? And he's like, look, just get involved, become a part of it. And we've done that. And, he's been great in helping mix us into some of the other big companies, that we as a country need to be successful, the Perpetuas, the
Sure.
resolution coppers of the world, right? We need all of that to get to a point where these foreign countries can't weaponize these minerals. And so I love what Ryan's doing. I love the voice. I love the platform. I love the fact that he has a great mix of mining and industry and legislative, which is very
Oh
important.
yeah.
And so, when he first floated the idea of the event in October, I said we're 100% in. I don't need the details. Just tell me how I can help and get
Yeah.
involved. And I'm super excited to see everybody. You and I, we get together a couple of times a year at various conferences, and I think the event's going to be fantastic. So I love what Better in Our Backyard is doing. And any way we can support them at Guardian Metals, we are all about it. So very excited
Awesome.
for October.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, JT,
Yeah.
thank you so much. And folks, you'll see me and JT and so many others in Minneapolis in October. Make sure you get there if you can possibly do it. You don't want to miss this. JT, thanks. I look forward to seeing you.
Thanks, Chris.